Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Our favorite holding period is forever. Never invest in a business you cannot understand. It's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. The business schools reward difficult, complex behavior more than simple behavior, but simple behavior is more effective. I never attempt to make money on the stock market. I buy on the assumption that they could close the market the next day and not reopen it for 5 years. Wide diversification is only required when investors do not understand what they are doing. We simply attempt to be fearful when others are greedy, and to be greedy only when others are fearful. Only buy something that you'd be perfectly happy to hold if the market shut down for 10 years. If you aren't willing to own a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. Diversification is protection against ignorance. It makes little sense if you know what you are doing. The most important investment you can make is in yourself. I will tell you how to become rich. Close the doors. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. You only have to do a very few things right in your life so long as you don't do too many things wrong. It's better to hang out with people better than you. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. In the business world, the rearview mirror is always clearer than the windshield. Forecasts may tell you a great deal about the forecaster. They tell you nothing about the future. The most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect. I always knew I was going to be rich. I don't think I ever doubted it for a minute. Read 500 pages every day. That's how knowledge works. It builds up, like compound interest. You do not need to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. A public opinion poll is no substitute for thought. Never depend on a single income. Make investments to create a second source. Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls-Royce to get advice from those who take the subway. Time is the friend of the wonderful company, the enemy of the mediocre. If a business does well, the stock eventually follows. Opportunities come infrequently. When it rains gold, put out the bucket, not the thimble. The most common cause of low prices is pessimism. What the wise man does in the beginning, the fool does in the end. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. I don't look to jump over 7-foot bars. I look around for 1-foot bars that I can step over. Never ask a barber if you need a haircut. An investor who has all the answers doesn't even understand all the questions. When forced to choose, I will not trade even a night's sleep for the chance of extra profits. Honesty is a very expensive gift. Don't expect it from cheap people. We don't have to be smarter than the rest. We have to be more disciplined than the rest. Should you find yourself in a chronically leaking boat, energy devoted to changing vessels is likely to be more productive than energy devoted to patching leaks. The best thing I did was to choose the right heroes. The smarter the journalists are, the better off society is. I measure success by how many people love me. Predicting rain doesn't count. Building arcs does. I try to buy stock in businesses that are so wonderful that an idiot can run them. The secret to getting ahead is getting started. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. It's not necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. Games are won by players who focus on the playing field, not by those whose eyes are glued to the scoreboard. You never know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. It is not necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. The best investment you can make is in yourself. The more you learn, the more you'll earn. If you buy things you don't need, you will soon sell things you need. The market is a pendulum that forever swings between unsustainable optimism and unjustified pessimism. Lose money for the firm, and I will be understanding. Lose a shred of reputation, and I will be ruthless. Long ago, Ben Graham taught me that price is what you pay, value is what you get. The smarter the journalist is, the better off society is. In the short run, the market is a voting machine, but in the long run, it is a weighing machine. Cash combined with courage in a crisis is priceless. We enjoy the process far more than the proceeds. Stop trying to predict the direction of the stock market, the economy, interest rates, or elections. No matter how great the talent or efforts, some things just take time. You can't make a good deal with a bad person. The first rule is not to lose. The second rule is not to forget the first rule. Turnarounds seldom turn. A great business at a fair price is superior to a fair business at a great price. We don't need to be smarter than the rest. We need to be more disciplined than the rest. Risk is not knowing what you're doing. Investing is simple, but not easy. You keep doing the same things and you keep getting the same result. The best chance to deploy capital is when things are going down. Calling someone who trades actively in the market an investor is like calling someone who repeatedly engages in one-night stands a romantic. A pin lies in wait for every bubble, and when the two eventually meet, a new wave of investors learns some very old lessons. Look at market fluctuations as your friend rather than your enemy. The most important thing to do if you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging. The most dangerous thing is the emergence of a business model that appears simple but isn't. You have to keep learning if you want to become a great investor. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. When we own portions of outstanding businesses with outstanding managements, our favorite holding period is forever. The stock market is a no-called strike game. You don't have to swing at everything. I want to be able to explain my mistakes. This means I only do the things I completely understand. I insist on a lot of time being spent, almost every day, to just sit and think. Successful investing takes time, discipline, and patience. There seems to be some perverse human characteristic that likes to make easy things difficult. It's not whether you're right or wrong that's important, but how much money you make when you're right and how much you lose when you're wrong. The most important thing I learned is to not fear being wrong. Accounting is the language of business. The more you learn, the more you earn. If you have integrity, nothing else matters. If you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. Of the billionaires I have known, money just brings out the basic traits in them. I don't look for business that I think I can manage. I look for businesses that anyone can manage. Wealth is the transfer of money from the impatient to the patient. The secret of life is compounding, in business, in relationships, in knowledge. I buy expensive suits, they just look cheap on me.